I ran upstairs, saw that Elvis was face down in the rug in the bathroom. I felt him and I knew that Elvis was not alive.
And Elvis was lying on the floor in the bathroom, and Joe Esposito, Elvis's road manager, and Al Strada, one of his wardrobe men, were trying to work on Elvis's body and revive him, and I started to help too. And you don't want to notice, but you could see rigor mortis had already set in. He'd been dead since about 10 o'clock that morning.
Elvis Presley is dead. Wish he wouldn't, but he is.
Elvis Presley, dead at 42 and mourned by millions around the world, was laid to rest today in a colorful ceremony in Memphis.
It was August 16th, 1977, and the world was shocked by the news. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was dead. His wake and funeral drew tens of thousands of fans to his Graceland mansion. Millions worldwide mourned his passing, and yet to this day, there are some who believe the king lives.
Those people who say Elvis lives are not referring to his music lasting forever or his spirit being with them. Some of these people really believe that the king is alive.
He called and he said, "I'm doing fine, and I know you've been wondering what I've been doing, and everything's okay, and thank you for caring." That was basically it. I was sort of in shock, so he called me at work.
He said, "Do you know who this is?"
Right. He asked me if I knew who this was. I said, I think so.
Most of the fans believe there's probably more evidence to believe Elvis is alive than he is dead.
G.B. Giorgio is the author of the book, Is Elvis Alive? And she claims to have had personal contact with him after he died, as did the previous woman who was an Elvis fan club official. And, of course, there have been tabloid sightings of Presley as well. Most of those are quite humorous to everyone except those who were closest to Elvis Presley.
It makes me furious. This lady, this woman was here in town one day out selling her book that Elvis had been seen here and there and yonder. And I had been interviewed that morning, and I absolutely got so mad until I went out there. And if she'd have been a man, I'd have whipped her butt, is what I'd have done.
J.D. Sumner, along with Charlie Hodge sitting next to him, toured with Elvis for over a decade. They were good friends. Hodge was at Graceland the day Elvis died.
And we tried to revive him all the way to the hospital. And by that time, Dr. Nicopoulos, Elvis's physician, had arrived. And we went to the hospital, and then they went in and started, trying to revive him. And then they came out, I guess, about 30 minutes later, and Dr. Nick just shook his head and said he'd gone.
Another longtime member of Elvis's entourage is Joe Esposito. He was Presley's road manager and one of the first to try to resuscitate the dead singer.
Dr. Nick kept trying to revive him in the ambulance, and just hoping that we'd see any sign of life out of him, but I just knew there was no sign of life.
In spite of the testimony of these men who were all so close to Elvis and who witnessed his death firsthand, there is still an element believing he's alive. Although on a recent trip to Graceland, it was hard to find the non-believers.
I think he's definitely dead. There's no doubt in my mind.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. It's a shame that the people say that. Because for me, in the old days, it was my favorite singer, and it is a complete story, and I don't think the people must say he's alive. For what?
It would be great if he was, but he isn't, I don't believe, no.
Elvis's family and friends feel that alleged sightings of the king are no mystery. No, it's not that they believe them, it's just they feel they understand what motivates people into making such outlandish accusations. It's the obvious reason, the almighty buck.
Well, it's done just to make money. It is the hottest subject there is going now, and as long as they can find anything, anyone can go in, anyone can write a book nowadays. If they'll go in and say, I know Elvis Presley personally, it's all done for selling.
And as long as people can make money by writing a book and they're not actually saying anything bad, they're speculating.
Money does seem to be the motivation behind most of the reported Elvis sightings. But then again, Elvis Presley is big business. His estate earns more and more money each year. However, to Presley's near and dear, there is a cruelness to all the credence lent to the stories of Elvis still being alive.
It's ridiculous. You know, that is ridiculous. It's no joke. You know, I wonder if people don't have a heart. What do they think about? What do they think they're doing to Lisa, to this child that saw her father, you know? It's cruel. It is very cruel, you know. It's no big joke.
These people are sick that has to go around and, you know, start rumors like this. You know, I'd like to issue a challenge to the people that say they've seen him. Well, bring him forth. Where is he? We'll offer money if they've got Elvis somewhere.
Prove to me Elvis is alive. Come to me and show me your proof. They don't do that.
There is one more thing that has Elvis Presley's closest annoyed, and that is the insinuation that Presley would be the perpetrator of a hoax. According to J.D. Sumner, that just wasn't the King's style.
Elvis believed in his fans. He had adored his fans. He admired his fans. And he was not the kind of person to ever tell a lie or live a lie. Elvis didn't have to. If there was ever a truthful man, it was Elvis Presley.
This is Graceland, Elvis Presley's mansion. It has become one of the most popular tourist attractions in Memphis. It is where he lived, where he died, and where he is buried. Yes, in spite of what you may have heard or read, or in spite of what some people claim, and as unfortunate as it may be, Elvis Presley is still dead.
Roswell, New Mexico was settled by cowboys, but now it's known for something very different.
Most people think there's something happened here.
I'm not really sure what happened, but obviously something happened.
Something crashed. Evidence shows that probably it was an extraterrestrial craft.
Did a UFO crash on this site 70 miles northwest of Roswell in July of 1947? Were extraterrestrial beings recovered in a top-secret military operation? Or did the wreck of a then-classified spy balloon turn into one of the tallest tales of all time?
I personally feel that there was a crash of some unidentified flying object that I feel came from outer space somewhere.
Lieutenant Walter Hott was public relations officer at Roswell Army Airfield in July of 1947, when he received an order that would change his life.
Put out a press release that we have in our possession a flying saucer.
Hott's release was based on findings by Army crash site investigator, the late Major Jesse Marcel.
I was amazed at what I saw. The amount of debris that was scattered over such an area.
Pieces of that debris were very unusual, according to Marcel's son.
They had what appeared to be writing on the inner surface of them. This writing consisted of various types of geometric figures.
The headlines from Roswell ignited a firestorm of curiosity.
Phones were ringing as if the world was coming to an end. Everybody wanted to know all the details about this flying discs that we had in our possession.
But one day later, the High Command, through General Roger Ramey, said the big story was hot air, that Major Marcel's debris was nothing more than a wrecked weather balloon. And for many years, the Roswell incident remained shrouded in secrecy.
This is a military town. You didn't talk a lot about strange things that happened that the military might be involved with.
Roswell native Stan Crosby has led recent efforts to promote the town's strange past.
We can't always choose what we're famous for. Roswell is famous for the Roswell incident.
Back in 1947, if the government told you to shut up for national security reasons, you did it.
Roswell's International UFO Museum is drawing throngs to its new quarters.
The major draw of this museum is the mystery. Everyone loves a mystery, and this is one of the biggest mysteries in our history of the world.
Yeah, that thing that you found in New Mexico.
Dad. What was that? Not the spaceship.
Was that Roswell? Roswell, New Mexico, yeah. No, you had the spaceship and you had the bodies.
Hollywood has done its share to enhance the Roswell mystique, but the truth remains elusive.
My interest is finding the government's file on the subject of what happened in Roswell in 1947.
In 1994, New Mexico Congressman Stephen Schiff asked the Pentagon for answers. The Air Force replied that it was not a weather balloon that crashed, but a top-secret spy balloon, Project Mogul, used to monitor Soviet nuclear testing.
Air Force research did not locate or develop any information that the Roswell incident was a UFO event, nor any indication of a cover-up.
UFO researchers like Roswell expert Stanton Friedman remain skeptical.
It's a whitewash. It's a lie. It's a continuation of lies that various Air Force officers have been making about flying saucers since 1947.
I know something happened out there.
Summoned to the airbase on the night of the crash, retired Roswell mortician Glenn Dennis says he encountered a terrified nurse.
She screamed, said, "Glenn, get out of here as fast as you can."
The TV movie Roswell recreated what she told him later.
I saw the bodies.
What bodies?
They were fetus-shaped.
4 fragile fingers with little, like, pads on the end. They only had 2 orifices for the nose. They didn't have a bridge or anything like us. They didn't have earlobes. They had 2 ear canals. The mouth was only like 1 inch. No teeth, no esophagus, and all that.
50 years later, Roswell is enjoying its bizarre notoriety. And that's okay with new Mayor Tom Jennings.
It's been a real economic boom to our community. It's filled up a lot of motels.
So as long as the mystery continues, people will continue to go to Roswell.
I don't think that we'll ever know all of the truth.
I told my mom I thought I saw a werewolf, and my mom believed me.
I was walking along a good probably 7 to 10 seconds before it had turned its head.
That thing, that was no dog. That was too big to be a dog. That thing was bigger than me.
That thing was stalking cornfields, jumping on cars, and feasting on roadkill. For 2 years, people in Elkhorn, Wisconsin whispered about a king-sized creature who roamed Bray Road.
It had really big claws. It was holding its roadkill like it had elbows, and it was kneeling on 2 knees, like a human being might do.
Eerie stories like that prompted Linda Godfrey, a reporter and cartoonist, to investigate. It was all just too bizarre not to be for real.
When you live in a small town and you say you've seen something that looks like a dog man or a wolf man, you know, you're going to get some ridicule, and they did. So they had no reason to say this.
Despite the ridicule, beast believers came forward in Godfrey's Beast of Bray Road article, like Doris Gibson, who'd seen it on Halloween night 1991. Driving down Bray Road, she had gotten out of her car when she thought she had hit an animal.
It was foggy out, and I was a little bit afraid. And this big thing come just like trucking, you know? Just trucking down the road at me, man. I looked at it, and I'm like, ah! And I ran, I got back in the car. You know, and before I peeled off, that thing scratched the back of the car.
Tom Brichta's car was also scratched by the creature from Bray Road.
My adrenaline started pumping. I was scared.
But this is a creature that likes to cross county lines. Tom saw it twice on Route 106.
We were having a good time and stuff. We were singing to the oldies and jamming out and stuff. And then all of a sudden I noticed this on the side of the road.
He was big and he looked intimidating. I was scared of his appearance.
Back on Bray Road, Lori Andreezy remembers her close encounter with the creature in 1990.
I saw it kneeling on the side of the road, and it was eating something. And I came up from behind it, and I slowed down because I thought it was a person at first. So I came up from behind it, and I realized it wasn't a person when I saw its pointy ears.
From those descriptions, Linda drew up this composite picture of the beast. All agreed it was very big, with pointy ears and broad-chested with a shaggy coat streaked with silver, gray, or black.
It had brought its right hand up, stopped, looked over by the car, real nonchalant, and made eye contact with both Scott and I, and gave like this sneer, like it was challenging us. Like, you know, what are you going to do about it? You know, I'm here, you're there. I'm bigger than you are. You can't do anything about it.
But with all the sightings, no one knew if it was man, beast, or even a combination of the two. One person simply called it God's mistake.
I would assume that what they saw was some sort of an animal, probably dog-like in nature, either a loose dog or a coyote.
I just said it's a big animal, and it's upset. It's really upset.
If werewolves do exist, this is probably a werewolf.
Hey, what are you doing? Once the W word was spoken, werewolf mania broke out in Elkhorn. T-shirts were gobbled up and personal capture permits were issued courtesy of Hairy Face. Even the local bakery made Beast of Bray Road cookies, touting them as werewolf cookies that will make you howl. Letters came pouring in. One in particular sent chills down Linda's spine.
He said it was too large to be a wolf. It had a terribly unkempt look to its fur, wild, not normal.
Elaine Bushman was describing what her husband Robert had witnessed in 1991. The Bushmans live in St. Nazian and were just passing through town when Robert spied the creature. They knew nothing of the beastly tales that haunted Elkhorn.
I've never seen anything that would be dirty enough and, for some reason or other, scary enough to make you feel the hair lift up on your arms, you know?
So, is it a dog, coyote, or werewolf? Believe what you will, but just remember, it's here, just waiting.
Dinosaurs and man, two species separated by 65 million years of evolution, have just been suddenly thrown back into the mix together.
Could it be true? Are dinosaurs still roaming the earth? And could they be, in of all places, the mountains near Lake Tahoe?
The first thought that entered my mind was, I've disturbed something which I shouldn't have disturbed, something which should have been left alone.
Frank Sharrow is a building contractor from Gardnerville, Nevada. He and his wife Camille claim that they found a living, breathing, prehistoric creature. This is going to be good.
We're excavating for utility lines, service lines, and that's where we came across the find. What I saw inside of it changed my life, will probably change my life for as long as I walk this planet. There were 5 large eggs, 2 of which were crusted up shells, broken shells, 2 of which were intact, and a 3rd one was broken, and that is the egg that contained a living animal.
Frank says he quickly called his wife Camille over so that she could snap these pictures. Sadly, they say the living creature died that day.
It just struggled to stay alive, struggled for breath, and then it died.
But fear not, there were still 2 eggs left. The Sharrows quickly transported the dead carcass and their prize eggs back to a shed located behind their house. Ever guess what happened next?
The eggs that were in our tool shed hatched, and whatever was inside of them escaped. When they hatched, they went through that sheet metal wall like it was paper. I mean, they went through it. They didn't claw their way out of it. They didn't bite their way out of it. They blew through it.
Understandably, Frank and Camille were dumbfounded by what they say happened to them, but they understand the seriousness of their find.
Think about the ramifications. Think about it. I mean, panic. You know what, panic and people, the first thing, the biggest thing that struck us, we don't want people out there shooting each other.
So naturally, they called not National Geographic, not the New York Times. They went to the Weekly World News, their favorite paper.
We're avid readers of the Weekly World News, and they deal in this sort of unordinary type stories.
You know, stories like this one about a vampire being alive today. The editors knew that the fossils were a journalistic discovery.
Down the road, you might find yourself with a whole nest of them, maybe 5 to 10 to 15 to 20. They may reproduce like rabbits.
Sure. Well, after the article, Frank and Camille became celebrities. They turned up on TV shows everywhere. One of them was John and Lisa.
It's too strange to believe.
I was sucked in, and I thought, man, these look like very, very normal people. Why do they have any reason to come on our show and pretend that they found the raptors?
By the end of their interview, John and Lisa say that they didn't believe the story. So we decided to go straight to the source. The Dinosaurs, that is. We paid a visit to Frank and Camille's hometown. We were on a dinosaur hunt.
You seen any dinosaurs around town?
Come on, you gotta be kidding.
You're not afraid to go out at night?
No.
No fear?
No.
No fear of an Allosaurus coming up and biting you?
No.
Knowing what I know, I'm sure as hell not going to go up there without a weapon with me.
As for the Sharos, all they seem to have are the pictures of these things. They say that they gave the dinosaur carcass and all the eggs to a dinosaur expert sent to them by the Weekly World News, who told them that it was an Allosaurus, a man-eater. So you know it must be true. But there's one problem. He's in Africa and no one can seem to find him. They say there was another person on the dig site with them, a laborer. Okay, finally someone who can back up their story.
I just call him Bob. I don't want to give a last name. But he's was working with us on that day, and he wanted no part of anything. He's gone. Last I heard, he was in Los Angeles.
Rats. They say they called the sheriff's department. Perfect. They can help us.
I don't think I should give the officer's name without his permission.
Double rats. They must have called the wrong sheriff's office because the one that covers their county never heard from them. Wait a second, I know. Let's take a look at the shed with the hole. Oh yeah, I forgot. It's gone.
I got rid of the shed for the simple reason that the animals might have returned to the place of their origin, the place of their birth.
Well, we found our own dinosaur expert. He says that to make an egg, you need a mom. That's one mom you couldn't miss.
I think this is perfectly crazy. This is one of the most absurd claims I've ever heard. And until we have evidence, it really isn't believable.
So our dinosaur hunt failed. We found nothing. But you know, it's not so bad. We've waited 60 million years to see one. What's a few more?
These animals, if there's any intelligence to them, who knows what they are? Who knows that they don't have our scent? Who knows that one night I'm going to hear a noise out that window and there's going to be something out there that I don't want to see?